We have to be careful about sources of research now. I have Twitter up, I have TweetDeck up all the time when I'm on the air, and I don't consider it a reliable source. I consider verified accounts, specific accounts in there to be reliable. But more I see it as a place to get color or to direct me to be on the lookout for other stories and to try to get that information through a verified route. So I try to be careful. I mean, social media is for sure a major tool. Every journalist is using it now, both to kind of further your own personal brand, but also to understand what's going on. But it needs to be taken with a grain of salt. You have to be very, very careful about where we use it. I potentially will be doing an interview tomorrow in Ottawa with the guy who's the top doctor in Canada, Chief Public Health Officer. It's about Ebola. I will end up doing a lot of reading in advance of that about what this guy has said recently. He's new to the job. What he's said about Ebola recently, what his agency has talked about in relation to Ebola, but also to understand what's happening internationally. You know, we now know that there's the terrible catastrophe in West Africa. We know a guy in Dallas got it, but he got it in Liberia. We now know a woman, a nurse in Spain got it, and she's the first person who got infected not in West Africa. West African missionary comes back to Spain for treatment. She goes and she gets infected. A couple of problems with that. Number one, Spain is a modern country. So in the course of reading, I realized that they have the same infection control procedures we have here in Canada. In other words, someone's identified as possibly having Ebola, you put them in a big isolation chamber, everybody goes into the spaceman suit. Somewhere that broke down. So either the spaceman suit doesn't work, which it should, or this woman, this nurse, somehow didn't follow the procedures and got infected. It creates another problem too, because this woman went on vacation before symptoms were showing, but after she was exposed to the guy who's since died. I know through the research that even though she was on vacation with her husband, and what do husbands and wives do when they're on vacation? Hold hands and have tea, right? What might happen? How do you get Ebola? Can you get it by coughing on someone? No, it's not airborne. Can you get it by sharing bodily fluids? Yes, you can. In fact, you will get it. But here's the key thing, and this is where research comes in. Until you are showing symptoms, you can't transmit it. So until the blood's coming out of my eyes, I can't give it to any of you. So it raises a whole bunch of questions. When this came out overnight, that we're able to augment and know the direction we're heading just based on that kind of research. And so for sources, we end up reading a lot of newspapers. We go to individuals. We go to individuals who we don't necessarily want to interview on camera or on tape, who we just need a bit of information and background from. So that's a lot of research. And research takes up as most of your time right there. Everything else is a lot easier. Sometimes there's not a lot of time to prepare, and that's where I say just having a good understanding of a variety of issues within, your beat. If you're covering hockey, well, obviously you want to have a good understanding of all the issues, things for the current season. There's a new hockey deal in Canada. How's Rogers going to handle it? Blah, blah, blah. You want to have a basic understanding of that so that when circumstances arise, is this a story? Is this something new? Is this something different? Is this controversial? You actually will have that background. I actually think that is the most important research you can do, is just being hyper aware of stuff that's going on. The thing that overrides all of this is we don't want to be the first to be wrong. So this is where lots of research and constantly consuming information and storing it somewhere inside the brain so that things happen and it just begins to smell bad to you. You go, I don't know. Some of these are really fast decisions, and we do a thumbs up, thumbs down, or yes, but with this caveat. And the way information moves now, people hear stuff, and so there's almost an expectation that you would report early. If we know something is wrong, then we don't report it. If we suspect something is wrong, then we don't report it. But then if we know something is right, then we will. But it's that in between. You think it's right, but you haven't yet proven it. Then we'll make a judgment call. Typically, we don't report it. Sometimes we will say, you know, there are reports you may see on social media we have not been able to confirm. We do not have sourcing on this. Other people are saying this. You know, a really famous example was Boston bombing. They identified 2 guys who were not suspects. And it was on the front page of the New York Post. And everybody else went zany with it and started reporting it as fact because they didn't want to be last. They assumed they had it right until law enforcement came out and said, we have no idea who these people are you're talking about, which became a little bit embarrassing for everyone.